Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And welcome back, everybody. This is something that many of us struggle with, and it's holding our lives back. Letting go of certain things that don't support us, that just don't have a place in our lives. Easier said than done. Put up a lot of resistance, and sometimes we have to just let it flow. Let it go. We're going to learn how to do that. And this is from somebody who harnesses the power of energy, helps people with this through many different platforms and programs. The Inner Self LLC is her company, at least one of them. We call her ME. She's MaryElizabeth, and she's back with us. How are you today?
I am fabulous, Steve. Thank you for asking. Very happy to be back.
Good to have you back here. And this is a big thing in our lives. Sometimes we don't realize the impact of not letting certain things go. And how, I'm going to start here. How do we identify those things that need to go? I think we all know the answer deep down inside, but sometimes it needs to hit us in the face, or we need to really talk about it. How do you identify those things?
Well, one of the things that you have to pay attention to, and we say that we've said this often here, that you need to be in a space of awareness. You need to be living your life mindful of where you are, how you are feeling, and importantly, what you are saying. One of the avenues that when people say, well, how do I get in flow? Pay attention to the words that you are letting flow through you, the words that you are repeating to yourself, the conversations when you feel a need to prove why you are right. Because when you are trying to prove you are right, you are resisting something. And resistance prevents flow.
When you say right, is it proving it to yourself that you're right?
It's a way of standing firm in your belief. You understand that? In that space of energy where, well, I believe it to be, so it must be true. That is not necessarily the truth. It's just what you believe. And beliefs, as we have said before, and as you have said before, start when you are a child. Start from your space of learning from a child's mind. And it may serve you for a time, but whether you are 5, whether you are 27, or whether you are 68, it does not matter how long you have believed something to be true. You can let it go, or you can shift the energy of it and how it comes through for you. One of the topics that this relates specifically to is that avenue of loving oneself. Your resistance to self, to your true self, is what keeps you from moving forward in that space of flow.
I would imagine if you've truly connected with yourself, you love yourself. Let's just say that. Many of us can't even admit that or get to that point. But when you're at that point, stands to reason that now you have different priorities, and you might be able to see those things that need to go. And it's now that calling is so much stronger than it might have been before you really connected with yourself.
That is very true. When you fully allow yourself to connect to the truth of you, not who others told you to be, not who you've decided to be throughout your lifetime, you see, because you do make a decision each and every day. Who am I going to be? Each and every moment, who am I going to be in this moment in time? How am I going to see the world? Am I going to look at it as if it's a difficult thing? Because if you do, you will have a difficult existence because you assume that is the way it's going to be. It's just your natural responding from patterning. So you have to be aware in the pattern. And that is the key to shifting your reality. But you have to be aware in what you are saying, because your words have power. Your thoughts have power. They're both energetic. So how do either make you feel? That is the key of identifying, am I resisting or am I letting go and being in flow? How does what I'm saying make me feel? A lot of times people dig into their belief system and don't even realize they're digging in.
It almost sounds as if we need to analyze what we're telling ourselves. And that reveals the answer.
That is the answer. Pay attention to, it's very interesting. When you all have a conversation with another, you automatically analyze what they are thinking and why they are saying things the way they are saying them. Because if you feel the resistance of another. So then your head goes, I wonder why they're resisting. Why do they believe that to be true versus what I see about them? Because that is the key. How you feel about yourself is key. One of the points that we would like to make about humanity, the majority of you are not taught to see that you are deserving, that you are worthy, just as you are, just as you were created. You have a way of comparing yourself to others. Compare equals despair. Stop comparing. Because in comparison, you will never measure up to another, because you're two totally different entities. So you will never be the same, ever, no matter what you do. So instead, look at yourself and say, what is unique about me? What do I bring that's different to the room? What can I do that others cannot do? You all have a tendency to analyze what it is you can't do, but you don't look at what you can do better than another.
It's a great point you bring up, Emmy. You can't compare yourself to somebody else because you're not them. And that doesn't take anything away from us in trying to compare, but you have to have that realization that no matter what, you're not going to be at their level. And I'm not saying they're fantastic or anything. I'm just saying they're different. And it just therein lies, there's no comparison. There really is no comparison.
No comparison.
Yeah.
No comparison. You cannot compare yourself to another. You cannot look at another's path and say, why am I not there? They are so much further ahead than me. They have experienced totally differently. So you may be actually leaps and bounds ahead of them versus what you have overcome in life from your space of understanding and strife. But it may appear to you when you measure that they are farther ahead. That is not true.
It's profound. And I love when you compare, it equals despair. And you said they may have experienced things. That doesn't mean that they necessarily that they have experience. They've experienced things. And you might be light years ahead in another area that they haven't even opened their eyes to. Let's say they're, very successful in business. Leave it at that. You may be so in touch with the universe and very spiritual, and that supports you. Thoughts. When you say the flow,
Yes.
How do you define that?
Flow. Allowing the universe to show you the next step, which way to go. And that comes through in multiple levels. That comes through the people that come in your path. That comes through with the opportunities that each day brings. That comes through with the moments where you think, and no matter what you do, you can't make yourself. Do you understand what we mean by that? where no matter how hard you try, why am I resisting this? Well, sometimes you're not resisting. The universe is saying to you, take a moment and pause and then see. Remy always thinks she has to get things done, where we just say, let it go. And when you're meant to, you'll be inspired to, and then it'll come with ease. When it comes with ease in flow, you are letting go. And sometimes letting go means stopping and doing nothing.
It's a lot of realizations I've had in my journey, and this is only in the last couple of years, but doing nothing, I never would do nothing. I'm always busy, got things going on. I would talk to friends. This is like, I'm talking like less than a year ago. 10 a.m. on a weekend. What are you doing? You got the whole day. You squashed half the day. Then I realized that doing nothing is doing something. You're recharging your spirit, your soul, your body, and the flow. You answered the way I think, and this came from my mother when I was much younger. Your parents always say these things. Go with the flow. Just go with the flow. It'll all work out. And, as a 20-something-year-old, I'd be like, love you, Mom. In my mind, I'm thinking, you're until you get to that age. And then I figured out the flow is the universe, and you need to go with the flow. Picture yourself in a river, and you're going down the river of life. And if you fight it, you're not going with the flow. But guess what? No matter what you do, you'll be winding up in the same spot. The universe is still going to take you there. Might take you. You might cause yourself to learn a lesson that the universe has to give you. But either way, you're still going that way. You're going with the flow. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does, because Emmy has a friend, and the joke is you're in the river, but you have one toe stuck in the sand on the beach, so that you can't move forward with ease. You are resisting the energy.
Yeah.
And it's allowed, instead of squashing it in the moment, because no, that's not me. I'm not supposed to be vulnerable, strong. I'm blah, 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 blah. It's that patterned response in your head. If you allow yourself to feel what you're feeling and let it flow through, it flows through quickly. When you resist it, it creates a barrier within you. And then you start seeing that more and more obstacles come in your way. Feel today is going to hinder you.
Is it a product of us, everything that we're talking about, where essentially the energy is stuck? Not going to let us allow us to move forward today because in many regards, energetically, we're stuck? Is that what's going on?
In a manner of speaking, you can say you're stuck, but what you have done is you've allowed yourself to put up a barrier to the universal flow. You've allowed yourself to, generally, when you squelch a feeling, it's because to you it doesn't feel comfortable. And because it doesn't feel comfortable, you don't want it to come through. Whether it be a moment of anger, whether it be a moment of sadness, whether you feel extremely vulnerable and you don't want the world to see your vulnerability. We want to be very clear. One of the greatest strengths of humanity is the ability to be vulnerable. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you are living in the truth of each and every one of you. You are each vulnerable to the impact of others. You are each vulnerable to that space of self-judgment, but judgment does not need to be. And when you speak of something, many, many times people will say to us, well, I'm trying, but it's not working. It's hard. Well, what are you saying? Your words create your reality. What you speaking creates the momentum for what the universe brings. So when you are speaking that it's hard, it's going to be hard for you. If you believe something is hard, it's going to be hard for you. So you have to reprogram, so to speak, the script that you are allowing to come through. But for that to be, you have to be in the awareness of the energy. You have to understand that when you are arguing why it's going to be difficult for you, you are resisting instead of letting go and surrendering the energy to the universal flow.
Astrologically at this time, it's as I understand it, a interesting time. Mercury retrograde begins soon. We're in a Venus retrograde, have a full moon coming up, some eclipses, and so many say that this is a little more challenging time. You know, energies run heavy, emotions could run heavy. That being said, and maybe that's an answer for some that trying to figure out why is things a little different now? If you feel yourself in the throe of life and things are just, even let's say you're spiritual, but now you're just feeling like, I got to do that. I have this going on. I have that. And overwhelmed. What's the first thing or the best thing that somebody could or should do?
And again, we'll repeat ourselves because we will say this often. Bring yourself to the moment. When you say, I have to do, or what is going on with me? Why do I feel this energy? One, you're energetic beings. So what is happening in the universal cosmic atmosphere is going to affect you. But here's the interesting point. You bring up Mercury retrograde, but here's the interesting aspect. Many will say it's a detrimental energy. We disagree. It's not an energy that should hold you back. It's an energy that allows you to release that which is hindering you. It's an energy that gives you a moment to pause and say, okay, we're going to move forward here, but we're going to take our time to breathe. In that space of bringing yourself to this moment, you can, as you've said before, and as Ami has said before, in the moment, you're perfectly okay. You get into that overwhelm when you're moving forward too quickly in your head, and you are seeing all the obstacles versus the opportunities. And Does that make sense?
It makes clear sense. And the retrograde is also a time where things from your past come back. Therefore, it's reflection. So, yes, I agree with you. Many of us, retrograde, Mercury, run. No.
No.
Maybe check and double check your communication because sometimes it can be a little misinterpreted. But guess what? That's a reminder. You should be doing it anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And he always says she should check her little text messages because they're never what she speaks into the phone. They're always different. But in part, you need to understand this too. The universe will play with you. So when you are sending a text message, it may be altered without your noticing. Do you understand what we mean? So it may be to a point where another person says, what do you mean? And then it gives you an opportunity to go, oh, that's not at all what I said. Because again, the energy is being played with for you to bring you more present in that conversation. Does that make sense?
It really does. It really does. Letting go. A lot of times we challenge ourselves with relationships. And a lot of times we stay in relationships, no matter what type they are, when maybe we shouldn't. Now, we probably know that we shouldn't, but as you said before, familiarity, comfortable, that feels good. Relationship might not, but just knowing that you're in a comfortable, call it that, situation. Using relationships as an example, how do you let that go? How do you just say, this is not right and I got to move on? How do you find the courage, the faith, and the strength?
In regards to relationships, whether they be a couple relationship, a family relationship, a friendship, if you are in a space energetically where you are more unhappy than not, but you are staying because you know there's potential, You know what has been between you, and now that no longer exists. But the majority stay because they think the absence of a person will be more painful than the experiencing of the familiar. But in truth, if you stay in a relationship that is not uplifting you, in a relationship that is, how should we say, more of a burden than a blessing on most days, and no matter what you do, you can't change the dynamic between the two of you, because that needs to be seen too. The dynamic is between two. And if you're not both willing to see from the same perspective, no matter what you do, it's not going to change. So what we will say here in this time is, first and foremost, your priority is you. And if you are unhappy, what is making me unhappy? Why is this relationship challenging me so? Where do I need to let go? Because sometimes you're the person creating the problem in the relationship because you're holding on to a moment in time that you can't release. But in many times, one of the things you mentioned is it becomes toxic. And what becomes toxic is the energy communication between two. Because sometimes, just sometimes, another will be either of a higher frequency faster than you or at a lower space, and you have moved through that to a higher frequency. If there's too much of a space between where you're angry because they can feel that divide. Does that make sense?
It surely does. And my wake up, and a lot of that came in some changes in life. And a friend of mine said to me, like the king on the hill, be gone with you. You don't support me. Move on. Support them. It just, they don't serve. They don't serve.
No longer have a space to help you grow. To a new energy, then ships or business relationships, but family too. And if you aren't, if they...
It just means the dynamics change.
But once you can understand if somebody is leaving your life in your energetic field, it's easier to let them always love you in regards to family, in regards to be a part of your life forever.
Well, we all know. We all have the answer. It's all within. It's hard to hear it. And support. How do they do that?
They can 615-524-4544.
Wonderful talking with you again today. This is so important, the stuff that you shared in terms of you moving your life forward, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. We will talk again next week.
Looking forward. We'll be right back. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her?
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge?
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! Is now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend?
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.